And welcome back, everybody, to the My Metabolic Life channel. And this is going to be one of what I call the Coaching Corner sessions. And I'm thrilled to have not only somebody who has a PhD in nutrition, but Lance was a two-time Mr. Universe and one-time Mr. America back in the 80s. 81, he was Universe and America. And I believe was it 86 that you were also
professional
Universe a second time. So I've got a quick little bio I'm going to start off with here. So at a young age, Lance had an insatiable passion for health and fitness, and he became fascinated with the body and passionate about bodybuilding. He competed against some of the greatest names in bodybuilding, yes, including Arnold, and won the 81 IFFB Universe 81, Professional Mr. Universe 86, among other awards. He spent over 6,000 hours training with Bob Gaida. Did I get that correct?
That's right.
And who was the inventor of the phrase core, co-author of the seminal book, Total Body Training. After finishing his professional bodybuilding career, Lance pursued a PhD in nutritional counseling and physical education, along with doctorates, became a certified life coach. This allowed Lance to understand the key components of how to lose weight, the psychology behind why many sabotage themselves and have trouble with keeping their weight off. Lance has spent 4 decades as a personal trainer and is a baby boomer himself, understands the aging body and specializes in training weight loss for baby boomers, especially those with medical conditions like diabetes. To date, Lance has helped thousands of patients over a 30-year period and tens of thousands of pounds of weight loss. There's a number of victories that he's had along the way that we're going to talk about with clients. And so let's just kind of start off with my first question for you, Lance. And first of all, thank you so much for joining me today. It's such a pleasure
Appreciate
to have you here. I would imagine that because as you're doing bodybuilding all those years, that there's definitely diet, nutrition, and or concepts around food that applied, that you utilized into that bodybuilding that you might have then built off of and took into your future coaching and lifestyle coaching careers. Would you mind expanding upon that?
Yeah, when I was competing, when I first got into 1970s, about 1969, I started training with weights, and my first competition was it's a long time ago now, 1971, I want to say, or 1972. And I was 17 years old. And that's where I met Bob Gaida. He was at the Mr. Chicagoland. And most of the competitors there were probably late 20s, early 30s. And Bob Gaida came up to me. He had won Mr. America and Mr. Universe himself in 1966. He beat Arnold Schwarzenegger, when a few guys actually do that. And told me he wanted to train me. You know, he thought I had the potential to become Mr. America, Mr. Universe. So he took me under his wing. And from there, I learned a whole lot about not only the human body, but also a lot about nutrition. Because at that point, I really didn't know a whole lot. And the diet that he put me on back then, was low carb. And he explained to me, if you want to burn fat, you have to get the carbohydrate levels down, because your body will use fat for energy, not the sugar or the carbohydrates that come from things like bread, rice, pasta, corn products, things like that. Okay, the standard American diet. And so we did that to get cut. Cut means losing body fat. And that was the main way of bodybuilders to actually get ready for competition. And to this very day, that's the primary diet that most of us use to lose body fat. Way before it was popular to say, I'm on a keto diet or I'm on a carnivore diet. We were doing this long before that. And I talked about this on my radio show quite a bit. You know, I was low carb before these guys were born, and they're all going on YouTube and doing their little things and how they're the experts. They should come to me and ask me. I'll tell them what we did back then. Okay. And where all this information actually comes from. So over all these years, I've been able to spend a lot of time with people who were involved in the industry when it comes to weight loss and when it comes to fitness and things like that. So I have a whole lot to offer. And, I was one of the first people who actually started doing personal training. And I was with the Chicago healthcare system back a while ago, and I approached the owner who ran the company, the president of the company, Don Wildman, who no longer is involved with that, with the Chicago Health Club, which is no longer in business. And that's the biggest step next in the fitness industry. This is about 1982, was going to be personal training. And he told me I didn't know what I was talking about. I was right. 130 some different organizations certify people. But anyhow, the concept of working with people to lose weight, we've been doing this way before it became popular. The low carb approach, way before people did this. Okay, the health aspects, way before they understood how it actually worked. Okay, so I just sit back with a big smile is what I do. I know, a little bit long-winded. Your turn, Brett.
No. Well, that's beautiful. So then was it through that experience, or was there a particular thing that led you to want to go get a PhD in nutrition?
Well, I found out how much people really didn't know. And, by dealing with people, working with people, there's a lot of psychology behind food. One, it's the most potent drug on earth. People don't realize it. They don't look at food as a drug, but it is. We make chemicals from it. So our body chemistry comes from foods we consume. Okay, and any of your experts will tell you that 75% of people have overweight, have eating disorders. They're emotional eaters, and they use food as their comfort. Okay, and you find it more in line more with women. Men will drink before they'll eat. Okay, the same part of the brain is the D2 dopamine receptor. All right, so that's what made me pursue a PhD in nutritional counseling, and also was in line with my wife and I becoming certified life coaches, because there's a lot of coaching involved when it comes to dealing with people who want to lose weight. Not just here's the diet to follow, here's an app to use, go do your thing. It's the coaching aspect that helps to get them from starting point to finishing point and keeping them there. That's why a lot of nutritional programs today offer coaching to some degree. So anyhow.
Absolutely. And I'm personally taking a food addiction and sugar addiction certification class right now, because I've recognized that with the people that I work with, that so many people just don't realize the addictive nature to all of this. Totally agree with everything you said right there. So where you said there's a lot of people that don't maybe understand all the concepts of all of this, do you think you teach things differently than your average PhD with a nutrition degree?
Well, I understand the nutritional aspects or the psychological aspects of eating more than what they would, because I deal with that on a day-to-day basis. I read people well. Okay. And so they need to get over those barriers that they put up, stop using food as protection. Okay. And it's more than just giving them a diet, giving them a book or an app to use to fill out. Okay. You have to get into the head. This is it right here. This controls everything. Okay. So once they break the addiction, and some people could take years, all right, then they're on their way. But unless they break the addiction, they'll fall right back into bad habits, regardless of how unhealthy it is to eat high carb. They'll still fall back into those habits because they're using food as a drug.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to re-engineer and look at it as an energy source, right?
Yeah. They have to look at it as fuel for the body. You still can enjoy it, because low carb eating is very enjoyable. Okay. If you know how to cook, and if you're creative, it's very enjoyable. But, people today have to get to that point. But, plus a lot of people, they're eating processed foods. They're not eating at home. They're picking things up, and they're not thinking properly. I'll get back on my diet tomorrow, that kind of thing. That's where accountability, that's where coaching comes in. So.
Absolutely. And just to play off of that for just a quick second, it's amazing. I don't know if you've seen it as much as I have, but because of the whole low carb movement, keto movement, whatever you want to call it, suddenly the biggest thing going on that I see are thousands of recipes of how to make these incredible wraps, cheesecakes, everything in the world from out of cottage cheese as one of the core ingredients, cottage cheese and eggs. Right. And it's just like exploding, but these things are incredibly tasty. And so my only point here is that humans are great at creating things that will taste good, regardless of what you want to start from a recipe with. So, you can cut out the crap and still eat like a king. Because I know I dropped 115 pounds in 2019, and I never felt like I was deprived for a moment during any of that.
Absolutely.
So the way I found you is one of your clients, and I believe also the producer in your radio studio,
Right.
is a gentleman by the name of Jim, and he showed up on the No Carb Life
Yes.
and told his story. And it's an incredible story. Would you mind sharing a little bit about kind of his story, and then other things? That is that just a typical, you have dozens and dozens of these kinds of success stories?
You have a lot of success stories. I have one guy who took over 250 pounds and kept it off 20 years later. He still kept that weight off. But in Jim's case, Jim was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And he started listening to my radio show. It took him a while to come and see me. Then he brought his wife in. Okay. And he's lost about 80, 85 pounds, but his health has completely changed. Completely. Okay. So he became a believer. And so I got him involved and helped me produce my show because I was doing everything on my own. He says, Lance, we got to get you more visibility. People need to hear more about you. These guys are out there. Everyone, this guy, Dr. Barry, who's a great guy, and all these rest, they're getting all kinds of exposure. You're getting very little outside of the Phoenix market, and people need to hear about you, okay, and what you've done and how you've been doing this way before these guys actually got into it. Mm-hmm. So he started to produce my show. But in his case, he had all kinds of health issues that I'll let him go into detail if you ever talk to him or interview him about what those actually are. Okay, but big difference, big difference. Of course, his wife as well, same thing. Well, it's easier to do it as a couple if you're married because both people are doing the same thing in the house. Because if you're one person doing it, the other one not, the one who's not doing it will try to self-destruct the one who is doing it because of guilt. That's part to do with it. So.
Well, I would love to someday have both of them on because I try to interview coaches and doctors and people that come at this from more of the scientific curriculum level of everything and hear about what they're doing with all this. But I also have an element of the channel, bring on people who have reversed all these different medical conditions. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the biggest kind of maybe surprises that clients of yours have experienced where they maybe came in because they wanted to shed some weight, they wanted to get in better shape, but suddenly what kinds of conditions suddenly resolve themselves?
Well, we see in a lot of cases, if they're type 2 diabetic on insulin, they get off the insulin relatively fast if they're adhering to the diet. In my case, just at the beginning, what actually pushed me getting back into low carb because I fell off the bandwagon for a while after I got out of competition. I don't gain fat from carbs. That doesn't do that to me. It affects my health. I was on, a totally unprocessed carbohydrate diet, normal diet without junk. Okay, whole grains, potatoes, things like this. And my second son, he's 33 now. He maybe had been about a year old. And I ended up here I live in Phoenix. So one of the things that happens to people out in the belly of the sun here, you're exposed to mold in the ground that we refer to as a type of mold that causes valley fever. Okay. And I formed a lump on my neck. Okay. About 1992 overnight. It was like a golf ball. Okay. So I went to a doctor. Okay. Removed the lump. The lump came back right away. Okay. It took me about 3 or 4 years. And the final doctor was a tumor specialist. He removed it. He called me on the phone one night at home here. Okay, says we did biopsy on it. Said, you ever been infected by valley fever? I go, not that I'm aware of. Okay, living in the valley, everybody does, about 2 years into living here. He said, we found some spores in the stuff we took out. We call them rice bodies. So we see the same thing in rheumatoid arthritis. So I'm going to send you into an infectious disease doctor. So he sent me in, did a test for tuberculosis and for valley fever, came up positive for valley fever, told me that I had disseminated valley fever. And disseminated occurs in about 3 to 5% of people who get valley fever, which means it moves out of the lungs and moves into the body, finds a place to grow. And in my case, it was growing in my neck. Told me about an 18-year-old female who was just diagnosed with it. Okay, within 2 weeks was dead. I knew Mr. America in California who died from it. And basically told me that I'm probably going to die from it. And this is now, you're looking at 20, 30 some years ago.
Wow.
Okay, that I'm probably going to die go to your brain, go to your organs. And so I'm leaving his office and I'm thinking, I got too much to offer. I got 2 young kids. I don't want to die. I'm not ready to do that yet. So I went back into the books. Now this is where the science comes from. Okay, I knew the low carb before in regards to losing body fat. Then I started looking. So this is a mold. This is a fungi. Okay. And what does it live off of? Sugar. Well, sugar comes from carbs. Any carb, except fiber. Okay. And so I said, I'm eating 300, 400, 500 grams of carbs a day, unprocessed, health food store stuff, no junk. And so I changed my diet. He put me on a really powerful antifungal. And I would go back in every 6 months to have a test done to see what they call a Coxie titer. Literally, it's a antibody test to see how well you're fighting the infection, your immune system. All right. And so I'm on the diet. Okay, I'm going back to the doctor. I'm on the medication. Stopped taking the medication after about a year of being on the diet. And my titer kept coming back non-detectable, stable, which is like 1 to 2, 1 to 4. Every time they take the solution, they keep mixing to see until the antibodies disappear. Okay, so it doubles. 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 8, 116, 132, 164, like that. Okay, and the more times you mix it, okay, the more infection is there. And so mine was coming back 1 to 2, 1 to 4 over a 2-year period. So after about 2 years of getting normal tests like that, the infectious disease doctor says, boy, we got this really under control. Those drugs are working really well. Says, Doc, I hate to tell you this. Says, I haven't been on the medication in 2 years. And I go, what? I go, valley fever is big out here. You have to understand that. Okay. He goes, what? I go, yeah, Doc. He says, if you need another opinion, I can send you this. I says, I don't need another opinion. I need someone to treat me just in case something happens. He goes, then he calms down. He says, well, what are you doing? And I told him about the low carb, okay, and how I exercise. I use the PHA system, which oxygenates the cells, gets more oxygen in. Okay, and he says to me, he calmed down. He goes, you know what? That makes sense. He says, I have a guy who has HIV. What he said, told me, got off the medications using the same diet, low carb. Okay, wow. And it's been that long since I've been on the medications for the valley fever. That long, all right? So it made me a believer. Also, at the same time, we were trying to have more kids, and my wife and I, we had about 5 miscarriages, all right? And it was her pushing me to actually change my diet as well, okay, that actually helped. And we had 2 other kids back to back pretty much after that, in between all those miscarriages. So the dietary change helped in regard to fertility and everything else.
Oh,
it's so it made me a believer. And so I embraced that concept when I started working with people, training them. We've seen tremendous results with people. I had 2 gals that were sent in by an in vitro fertilization doctor. They couldn't get pregnant. Both of them, we changed their diet. Okay, and they both got pregnant. One had twins. Okay, but cutting the carbs down, exercising, that kind of stuff, because we reversed the disease process in them. Okay, that was created by the environment they were creating from the foods they were eating, which were higher carbohydrate-based foods. So these are just, again, I've got all these years of stuff. I can just throw it all out there, all these people I work with that we've helped out. And Jim is one of them, more recent. So anyhow,
it's absolutely sorry about that. No, that is awesome. Yeah. When you were talking about with yourself and the doctor, what you were describing is, are you familiar with Dr. Thomas Seyfried out of Boston College and what he's doing with the press pulse method for cancer treatment?
I have not. I'm not familiar with him.
Well, it's a very similar thing. So he's got what's called a press pulse. So you can think of like a full court press in basketball. It's always just pressuring the thing, and that being in ketosis along with fasting, just like with what you were doing with low carb, you're depriving the tumor of the sugar, the glucose that it needs, and then they pulse, because the other thing that tumors can use is glutamine, and which is an amino acid, and so they've got different 2 different drugs that they pulse like once a month or so. Or I'm not saying that's the exact protocol; it's different for everybody, but they keep the full court press on, and then they pulse to remove the 2 main foods, and it has just incredible results. It sounds like you were using like your own principle, similar principle to how you attack that.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. We also know that cancer cells are acidic, and it creates the environment of acidity around the cell, so it mutates the cell and actually becomes a cancer cell from normal cells. Okay, and because they're more anaerobic, they're not aerobic cells. instead of producing lactic acid as a byproduct of metabolism. Okay, and the only thing they can metabolize anaerobically are carbohydrates. It cannot metabolize fats and protein minimally. So yeah, it all makes sense. They should have been doing this a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that is going on. I'll just bring up a quick thing. I don't know if you've heard about it or not yet. There's a movement that I'm a part of. It's kind of an advocacy and activism movement called the Metabolic Revolution. Have you heard about that?
Through you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And it's in the signature on my emails and all. But yeah, I'd love for you to talk about it a little on the radio show, because we're having a rally in Washington, D.C. on October 13th. And we
send
have
me that information, okay, if you don't mind, okay?
I will do it right after we're done with this. And we've got a website. We've got all the featured speakers up there. But it's going to go way beyond this. It's just the launching point. It's really basically all the medical practitioners and the people that understand what metabolic therapy can do that said, hey, our nutrition guidelines have been screwed up for decades and decades and decades. And it's causing the epidemics of what we're seeing across the country with everything. And because we're also not focusing in the medical guidelines that healing is an option, it seems to be a secret about everything we talk about inside of the medical community. And that's why we use the term idiopathic
Right. I don't know the cause.
Idiopathic hypertension, instead of calling the root cause of what really it is. So any other cool stories you'd like to share about maybe a condition that most people wouldn't think of that got solved?
Well, the infertility aspect, and of course my own with the valley fever, you got to understand, big pharma and big food runs this country. Okay, and because we live in a capitalistic society, which I love this place, if you create a market for your product, you're going to be rich. All right, so I mean, use food to do it. You need to eat. And they've done a good job of that. And you big pharma, in fact, a lot of these big TV stations, you'll see the board of directors sit on not only a board of director of that TV station, but they'll sit on a board of director of some pharmaceutical company. Okay, so if you watch the commercials, particularly early in the morning when older people are up, all about drugs. Okay, so big food, okay, makes people obese, makes people sick. So big pharma can make a drug to fit the sickness and get rich on. There we go, Ozempic. The other ones that are attached to it. And you can't, the only ways that people are going to change this stuff, if they start demanding the truth, okay, from the medical community and the food community, and big pharma, stop allowing them to run commercials on television to advertise their goods, to make it look like glamorizes it, like Jardians. I'm sure you've seen the commercial. Small pit with the big story, as these heavy people are dancing around looking really happy. There's no heavy people I know that are real happy. They're sad on the inside. That's why they're heavy like that. They don't want to be like that. They don't want to be sick. They want to feel good about themselves. So smiling and dancing about a pill doesn't solve the problem. It's changing what they've been doing all along. It's called their diet, and it's called exercise, and it's called building a group of people around you who can give you support to stick on what you've had a hard time doing. You don't get that in a bottle or a shot.
Absolutely. And probably the most underappreciated anxiety and depression drug in the world is exercise. I mean, it just changes everybody's disposition.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You just feel so good, and it just lifts everything. So you have a radio show, and you're in the Phoenix area. Is that correct?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing radio since about 1993.
Oh, so you're a rookie.
Yeah. On iHeartMedia, people can pick my show up. It plays live on Saturday at 1 o'clock here in the Phoenix market, and again 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday to replay it. But they can go to iHeart's app and just put my name in, Lance Dreher or Dr. Fitness, and the shows will pop up. There's a whole library of stuff in there.
Awesome. But can they also stream you live through iStream?
Oh, yeah, of course they can.
And listen to you from wherever they're at in the country?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anywhere. Oh, yeah.
Then also one last question for you, because I know you have a little bit of a time crunch today. Do you, with your coaching from also the fitness aspect, do they have to be right there in Phoenix with you, or
No.
is this a complete remote capability?
No, we can do it like this. like you and I are doing. I've done that in the past. In fact, I got a guy I've been working with, he and his son, for quite a long time now. We do it every Monday and every Friday, live on Zoom. So, plus we can also do one-on-one coaching as far as nutrition without the exercise aspect of it. So, because sometimes the exercise, doing it this way is a little more difficult because you're just watching them and telling them what to do next, But the nutrition part is much easier to do like this.
Absolutely. And this is how I do my nutrition, my health coaching. I don't get into the exercise stuff. I'll train people in tennis and different things here and there, but that's done on a court live.
You make them weigh themselves in front of you on the scale?
No, I don't. I try not. I let them worry about the weight. We worry about more metabolic health reversal. And once you kind of get that root cause situation, the weight just tends to fall off.
Well, you also look at, you need to get them past the point of being afraid of the scale. So get them used to that. Get on a scale. Don't be afraid. Scale just tells you what's going on. Okay. It doesn't cause the problem. It's what you put in the mouth that does that. All right. So it makes them aware of it. Okay. So they're not afraid down the road. I'm afraid to get on a scale. What have I been doing wrong? Oh, no. It's self-destructing. Yeah. You want to get past that point?
I'm not anti-scale, but I also understand, having gone through my weight loss journey of 115 pounds in 9 months, that during that period of time, I was so focused on the scale, and I'd freak out. I go 2-3, normally I was losing about a half a pound a day. You go 2-3 days without losing, and you start realizing it's not linear, but then you want to do the next.
Weight loss is like going on steps. Okay, you hit a set point that you stay there for a while. That's usually the same way we gain weight. You go up the next step, you get flat, nothing happens. It's because in most cases, the body metabolically got used to being at that weight for a while. The same thing happens going the other way, going down. So they need to just, don't be afraid of the scale. Don't be afraid of the scale. Don't be afraid of it's a scale. All right. It doesn't tell you what's going on inside. All right. And we don't lose weight in a straight line. Okay. Water fluctuation, all this stuff. It's long-term picture. Long-term.
Well, and that's why I also like to tell people at the very beginning of the journey, take measurements, do your arms, do your legs, do around the belly button, because while the scale's not moving, there is recomposition happening, and they can pay attention to how the clothes are fitting differently and what those measurements are. And they go, oh, I lost a half an inch in the last 3 weeks. Yeah. No, the scale barely moved. They put on some muscle, they put on some bone density, and it wasn't enough to cover the weight loss, but the things are happening.
Well, the most important part is the waist measurement. Do you know what the average female's waist size in this country is today?
No.
Take a guess.
38?
Close. Male's close to 41.
Right. Male and
average.
Female?
That's the average size. Okay. Back in the 1960s, I believe the female's waist was about 26 and the male's was about 32. Right. And the big difference between then and now is the heavy consumption of carbohydrate eating.
When they vilify and the wrong carbohydrate eating, because they didn't get that from broccoli.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, processed foods, starches, soda pop, big time. So, all right, Brett, it's been a lot of fun.
Hey, real quick, I'm going to have Lance's contact information in the show notes down below right here. But would you like to again tell us what radio station you're on, what your website is, and how people can reach you?
Yeah, you can get a hold of me by going to Zoom Lance, ZOOM, Lance.com. Go to the contact page, send me an email. Make sure you tell me where you heard about me from. I'm on 550 KFYI out of Phoenix. That's an iHeartMedia station. And you can just type that on the internet and the station will pop up. Okay. And you can, again, they got a podcast and all this stuff. And I'm also have a YouTube page that Jim's helping me with. But again, Master of Dr. Fitness, you'll find all that stuff there. He takes segments from the show, puts it on there, but we're in the process of doing our own thing as well. I have a sister who's a registered nurse. She's also a hospice nurse, and we had her on last week, and she believes in low carb. And again, she's dealing with really sickly people. All right, and like last week, I had her on, and she says 100% of the time, here's a good one for you. 100% of the time, all my Alzheimer's patients, 100% of the time, were diabetics. She says not 70%, 100%. So yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about that. So anyhow, we're hopefully down the road in the next couple of months, we'll have her and I doing our own YouTube thing as well outside of the radio station. Plus my wife and I are going to do a cooking show as well, how to cook and live low carb. You got to love
That's
her.
awesome.
So, okay,
That's
Brett, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your time, Lance. Glad we were able to get this done. I'll shoot you the Metabolic Revolution stuff. Everybody, great to have Lance here. We'll see you again soon. Thank you so much, Lance.
Enjoy Wisconsin. Take care.